All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Buildup. This is, I think, class number 6, although I've lost track, so I don't really know. It's so much fun that I don't count the lectures, and I hope you don't either. We're recording this as usual. It will go on YouTube unlisted, and everybody will get a link. We usually have Amelia, about half of the class are able to attend live, and about the other half have to actually watch it after hours because they have real jobs, unlike me. Our special guest today is Amelia Campbell. Amelia, wave hi.
Hi.
And from BDC, from the Business Development of Canada, Business Development Bank of Canada. And Amelia is an amazing young banker. Some of you may have heard me say that just before we started recording. Is she gives me and many others really good advice, and everybody should have her on speed dial because BDC advertises itself as the Bank of Entrepreneurs. Amelia, how long have they been using that Bank of Entrepreneurs sort of tagline?
I don't know how long they've been using the tagline. We just had our 75th anniversary a couple years ago, though. So maybe since it started, but we've always been a bank for entrepreneurs, since
I do think the
we
tagline is
started.
actually relatively new.
Is it? Okay.
Well, I don't know. But I think so because I pay attention to these kinds of things because I like taglines. Amelia, my brand is Prof. Bruce. Uh,
Uh,
yeah, and my tagline is making impossible possible.
that's good.
That's my tagline. And so I like names and I like taglines. And so when BDC started using Bank of Entrepreneurs, I really noticed that. So there you go. All right. So what we're going to do right now, excuse me, is I'm going to share my screen. First, I'll boot up your slides, Aaron, so we can talk about your latest business. Here it is. And what we're going to talk about just for a few minutes, and I'll give you guys the schedule of what we're doing today in a second. So here are the slides. Aaron, you can see them okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, so I'll share them. So what we're going to do today is you're going to hear from Aaron first about his latest, I think this is either the 19th or 20th business that Aaron is operating. So we're going to hear about that. And then I have a few comments and a few slides I'd like to share with you to show you where you can take ideas that maybe will surprise you at what is possible. And then after that, we're going to listen to and hear from Amelia Campbell from BDC, talk about what the BDC does, what they expect from us if we're applying for any kind of a support or loan. And that'll be really beneficial. And as I said, everybody should have her on speed dial because she's a terrific banker. And then I'm going to close it out. Then Aaron is going to close it out with how to read building plans. I think most of us think we know how to read building plans, but there's more to it than you might think. I mean, people on the call like Dustin Poole, obviously, they create these plans, so they know how to read them. So, Dustin, maybe you can doze off while Aaron's talking about that. But for the rest of us, including me, I expect to learn something new today from Aaron, and maybe even you will too, Dustin. All right, so I got the slides up. Aaron, do you want to talk about Hillside BBQ?
Yeah, so I actually sent some pictures to Bruce earlier this week, just seeing if he wanted to share this with the class. And he kind of asked if I would present it to the class, which I think is a great idea. I think this business kind of really magnifies a lot of what we talked about over the last couple of weeks, including the partnership piece, how to pay for things piece, and really the vertical integration, the way I kind of look at all the different businesses I have. This one is probably one that's nearest and dearest to my heart because I love food. And this is kind of a passion play that I think will actually be pretty successful. So we did go through Hammond Hill and Small Living Company last week. The logo, we jumped past it, but the logo is predicated on the Hammond Hill logo. The same designer did both, so we're trying to kind of draw all these similarities in. So when you see one, you kind of are seeing a couple logos. So we can jump to the next slide, Mr. Bruce.
Just before I do that, for Amelia and some people who are new to the class today, Amelia, Hammond Hill is one of the first campgrounds and glamping sites developed in Ontario many years that Brad Cartier and Aaron Markle opened last year. And they're also
Okay.
creating a tiny home village there. It is a phenomenal success. It's like a rocket ship. And so we did that last week in the class. And this week, there's an extension of that business, which is called Hillside BBQ.
Oh, neat.
And really quick, actually, well, I should mention, BDC, you guys loaned us $250,000. You were very helpful over the last year in getting us to where we are today.
Oh, good.
So we ordered a custom-made food trailer. The trailer itself cost about $40,000. We designed it from the inside out. It's 8 by 18 feet long. You know how I love heat pumps, so we had them add a heat pump into it so we can extend our season and make sure that the chef that's cooking is comfortable, because it gets pretty hot in these things. We looked at a bunch of different models, and we had looked at the food truck model. And the problem with the food truck versus the food trailer is inspections and ongoing maintenance. The trailer means it's mobile with anyone with a truck. The truck means the truck has to run. So we took a long look at it, and I realized the trailer model is smarter for us, and it's a little bit more mobile, and I can have almost anyone move it. We just took possession of this week. Obviously, there's no wraps on it. We will throw some custom wraps on it. And where this will get really interesting with that vertical integration model is that I can put all the other businesses on this as well. So I can have a Hammond Hill sign. I can have a small living company sign. I can have my own company on there. So I can start to promote a lot of different businesses on a trailer that's going to be going up and down the road.
So just for people who don't know, a wrap or a total wrap is when you decal a trailer or a truck or a car. You know, people forget, you know, everybody thinks, oh, you know, marketing today is having a TikTok video. Well, that's great marketing, no doubt. One of my daughters runs a business when she cuts a a TikTok video. She get up to 300,000 views in 2 or 3 days, which is great. But that's not the only thing. If you do a total wrap here, you have it deckled with all the logos that Aaron was mentioning. It's 24/7, 365 signage, and it's free.
Yeah. And the great thing for us was Hammond Hill is an amazing eco park, but the only food we could offer were peanuts and chips. Now we'll be able to offer food. We'll get into it further and all the different business opportunities that I see coming up. So if you could jump to the next slide, please, Bruce.
Yeah, just before I do that, I learned how important food is from my wife. And when we did the original building, the Palladium, where the Ottawa Senators play, basically we really only had junk food. And when I would take my wife there in the early days of the hockey team, she'd go, nothing here for me to eat. And so over the last 20 years or longer, one of the things we've been doing, Aaron, at the Canadian Tire Center now is upgrading the food, trying to present something other than just hot dogs and popcorn.
Yeah. So one of my business partners, Martin, he owns his own metal fabrication business. So this he custom built. The two of us designed it. I don't know, this is actually a smoker. It's not a barbecue. One of the things that's interesting, this design I've never really seen before. It's a little technical, but normally wood smokers are called offset. So the fire box, which is that little box on the left-hand picture, would be off to one side. We put it in between two chambers so we can actually control each chamber on separate heating platforms. So really interesting model. So far, it works great. We will be using all of the wood from the hill. So that gives us a nice little tie-in to a package where all those trees came down. Our barbecue sauces will always use the beer that is brewed just down the street that we own, and we're going to be using ingredients from the hill. So the sauces are going to be unique to Hammond Hill. And if we ever take this model to a different site, we'll do the same thing there. So it's like you can only buy our sauces in one spot. Also, this is on a single axle trailer, completely mobile. I can actually start cooking with this at home and drive it somewhere while it's still cooking, which is really
neat. You would drive it with live fire in it?
You would be able to. The way we built it, we have some hooks so we can actually keep down. Everything closes and locks down, and we can connect the meat to the grill itself.
Just remind me where you're traveling so I don't run into you.
Pardon me?
Just remind me where you're going so I don't run into you.
It'll be hard to miss the smell and the smoke. Everyone.
Oh my God! I'll be so hungry. I'll be stopping you on the side of the road.
So all the different opportunities on the sales side, the easy ones are, obviously the general public. We are adjacent to an 18-hole public golf course. Where we're going to put the smoker, the smells will emanate down to the 8th, the 15th, and the 12th hole. So they'll have golfers that'll be wandering up, and then obviously our campers and our people that'll be staying on site. Those are easy ones. We will be doing catering. You guys know I've talked about the fact that I'm a wedding officiant, so we have about 8 weddings booked this year.
Wow.
Catering is a really, really big revenue, big business, and a great way to get your name and branding out there. And because it's a trailer, the food goes where the party is, right? So it really makes it very easy for us to accommodate that. And we have, in our crew of people, we have about 15 people that have trucks. So anyone can move this trailer in a jam if I'm not available or if the chef's not available. I put in their custom events and tournaments on the golf course. Because it's mobile again, we could actually sell pulled pork right out of the smoker on the 7th hole. No other golf course is doing that. I think that's really amazing tie-ins. You'll be able to tie that into tournaments. You can do upsells. It becomes a really interesting business metric, both for the golf course and for the barbecue. The really interesting one, and this came from our chef, is with a great vacuum sealer, you can pre-cook a lot of your meat, vacuum seal it, and then you can sell it. Refrigerate it, sell it. People can stop by on their way home. We can service the community. We can send it to the golf course. We've partnered with a local food delivery company so that they'll be able to deliver the food for us. So I think it gets really, really interesting. And then I put in the last note, we're going to be making our own custom sauces and rubs, and that also becomes a sale item. It's not a very big sale item, but if you can make $5 to $10 a can of the rub, and every time the rub goes out, it's logoed, you're expanding branding. Every time you do that, and the logo won't just be Hillside BBQ, but it'll have a note on Hammond Hill, small living company. That sauce may influence someone down the road to come see us, stay the night, maybe buy a tiny home. It's a really amazing integration and vertical integration between a bunch of different businesses, and they just kind of feed off each other and excuse the pun, and make everything better.
Can I add something there, Aaron?
Of course.
So I coached a group out of Montreal called Le Naked Lunch. And it wasn't about people getting naked. It was about having great food. And they ran a restaurant, a very successful restaurant called Le Naked Lunch, which did about $3.3 million in sales, Aaron, which is a good number for a restaurant in Montreal. I mean, there's some that'll do 6 or 7 million, but 3.3 is a good number. This is a few years ago now. And when we did a close analysis of it, it turned out that the restaurant sold $2.5 million worth of meals and booze a year. The other $800,000 came from their pre-prepared foods. And I didn't realize until I just saw this on your slide here right now that you're proposing to have prepackaged, pre-cooked meals ready to eat as an option. Now, let me tell you what happened. From the $2.5 million in the restaurant volume, they made $100,000. From the $800,000 that they made just from the counter where they were selling, people could stop by and buy their wonderful food and take it home. They were making $800,000, but the profit on that was $300,000. So they're making $300,000 profit on $800,000 in sales and $100,000 in profit on $2.5 million in sales. So, Aaron, what do you think they did?
They changed their business model.
They changed their business model, exactly. And I want you all to think about that. Even in small businesses, there's usually something inside that's profitable and something that inside is maybe not so much. So what they did was they sold their restaurant to their employees. It was an employee buyout. Maybe BDC was involved, Amelia, I don't know. But they sold the restaurant to the employees so that they could continue to have work and go forward with that. And they kept the pre-prepared foods, and they have grown that into a very large business, and it's much more profitable than running the restaurant. So I suspect that this part, number 4 on here, will be very successful.
Well, and the other tie into that too, Bruce, is we don't waste food, right? Like you're taking food that might be left over, you're vacuum sealing it. Restaurant waste is a huge, huge problem. It has to be disposed of. And we're going to be at a park. If we start disposing of food in the garbage cans, I tell you what's going to happen. We'll have a huge, huge animal problem. So, so I just wanted to share, because we have talked about partnership a couple times, the way that I've kind of set this up. This was kind of my pet project, but I brought in 4 partners that I deal with on other opportunities. We each took an equal 20% stake. We saved 20% for an owner operator to run the truck business, because I love barbecue, but I have no interest in cooking this myself. As of today, we've all 4 partners put in $1,250 each for a total of $5,000. That got us the deposit on the trailer and all the business, the operational stuff. One of my business partners, we've convinced him to cover the balance of the trailer and the build. He's going to be charging us 2% less for interest on a promissory note. So we set up this business ultimately out of my pocket today. I put $1,250. I have 2 food trailers. We have the logo. We have a website. And I just think it's an interesting way to think and look at partnerships and what they can bring to you in terms of how much money has to go out the door and what you can get out of it. And it all has to do with that relationship piece and the leverage. And I know we've talked about leverage extensively, but leveraging your own personal brand is really the key to why I can have 15, 16, 17 businesses. One, I convince people to invest with something that comes out of my crazy brain. More often than not, I'm convincing them to invest with me. I believe that I'm the investment. And as much as this is interesting, I think that leverage piece is really, really important as people go out into the world and develop their own personal brands. It's something that has to be kept in the back of your mind all the time. Because when these conversations happen, it's that they're investing in.
We have a question from Dale. Do you need any special licensing to run the food truck or the slow cooker?
Yes, you need, there's a bunch of licensing that has to be pulled. There's some provincial licensing, there's some municipal licensing, there's a simple business license. It depends on whether it's mobile or stationary. They come and do some inspections to look at electrical, water connections. You'll have some fire safety stuff, because if you're going to be doing deep frying inside, now you're looking at exhaust fans. You think about it, it's a very similar licensing that's required with a restaurant, but dumbed down quite a bit because there's not quite as much legislation involved. But yes, there is some licensing for sure.
All right. If there are any other questions, just keep putting them in the chat box. You guys know how to do that. This is my note, which I created for Aaron and his business partners this morning. You don't have to read it all. I'll read it. And what I wanted to explain here is exactly how to create a business within a business, or create your own clients. And what I'll see if I can summarize it for you in a way. I'm going to stop sharing the screen just so you can see my handsome face. So think about this. Quite often what I'll do is I'll create a business, and inside that business, I'll have other businesses. Like when I was running mini offices, I ran the largest mini office provider, today would be called co-working space, in Eastern Ontario. We had, I think, 120 offices downtown Ottawa and another 44 in the West End. So we had 164 mini offices. And inside of that mini office, we had the administration, we had the photocopier. Back in the day, we had the fax machine. We even had a typing pool, etc. And that thing cost us money. It was a cost center, not a profit center. And then I had an idea, maybe we could bring in an entrepreneur to run the administration, and she would take over that part of the business and run it as an independent business within the business. So we would turn a cost center into a profit center. We would turn a cost center into a tenant who would pay us rent. And what I also found is that people who are entrepreneurs who are focused on one particular thing almost inevitably will do a much better job in terms of sales, control over costs, and profitability. So when I saw Aaron was doing this, I said, look, you might operate this thing with your partners for the next 2 years, but then at some point you simply take this business and you find an entrepreneur, like you were saying a few minutes ago, Aaron, who will take ownership of it, focus on it. And then Aaron would, of course, retain some ownership, but there would be an entrepreneur focused on the profitability of that one thing. And again, I'll go back to my Senators days. I thought the Senators should focus on a very few core missions. One, put a good hockey product on the ice. Have a good relationship with your key sponsors and your ticket holders. But that's about it. So what I would do, for example, is I would go and get a food and beverage operator, which I did. I hired Ogden from New York to run the food and beverage operations. And to give you an idea of how important that was, the senators have ever since then, it's almost 30 years, have now been able to get 54 cents of every dollar of revenue spent on food and beverage in the building goes to the senators, and they do no work, right? They just get the money for nothing, right? And the Montreal Canadiens, the president of the Montreal Canadiens told me, oh, Bruce, you shouldn't do that. You should do it yourself. And I said, I don't know anything about making hot dogs or decent food and serving beer. Ogden presumably does, because they do many arenas and stadiums. After 20 years, it turned out, the Sens were making 54 cents of every dollar, and the Montreal Canadiens were making 25 cents by doing it themselves. So we were doing twice as well in terms of profitability with zero effort, other than taking a check to the bank, so to speak, once a month. Everybody clear on that? So you can set up businesses within your businesses, and you spend the time and effort that Aaron is doing to create it. But once you have established it as a business that has an ongoing revenue stream and hopefully some profits as well, you could turn an entrepreneur loose on it. He or she can buy it from you and develop it further. And then you can turn what was a time sucker into something that has almost no time involvement. And that's the one other thing that, certainly as I get older, I am more and more aware of, and that is you want to look at the ROI on your money, the return on investment on your money, but you also want to look at the ROI, the return on investment on your time. And as a younger person, I didn't really understand that. And I see Dustin on the call here, and Jordan is joining us, and a few others. Kyle is here, Alex is here, people who are younger, much younger than me. And I think it's important to measure ROI in more than just a financial term. All right. Does anybody have any questions for us before we move on? All right, just put them in the chat box if you have any. All right. So what I wanted to show you as well is, just because I want you to understand how important the business model is. Again, most people think business models are important and key in, say, setting up a technology enterprise, a technology startup. But real estate business models are very, very important as well. And it can make all the difference between success and failure. So what I did, if I could find the slides, what I did was I wanted to show you one that is, it's called Burger Builder. And you're going to say, what the hell does that have to do with the price of rice? Well, I'm going to show you a model that could lead you to conclude that if you have the right business model, you can set up a $500 million business or a $100 million business in real estate. All right. And you can do it with very, very little money. And I'm going to share my screen with you here. Oops. See if I can find the right slide deck. I think this is it. Yeah. All right. And I could talk about this model, for the next, 2 hours. So I promise not to do that, Amelia. We're going to get you on in a few minutes. All right. So what I wanted to show you is, let's assume that Aaron owns Burger Builder rather than Matt Daubry, who I'll introduce you to in a moment. And in a way, Aaron, you do. And here's the basics, a basis of a business model that is, believe it or not, this little trailer of yours and this slow cooker of yours could be $100 million a business. And how would you do that? So Burger Builder is, in fact, a food truck with very good burgers, mind you, really good food, that's in a Home Depot parking lot. So I'll show you this. Here it is here. So you can sort of see that right now it's in a Home Depot parking lot. This is in Canada with a sort of a little covered area where you can get your burger and your fries and whatever else you want, and you can eat out of the weather. It was established by Matt Daubry, who is a Red Seal chef, and I coached him for a while. And Matt has an interesting background, not a whole lot of formal education, wasn't a real big, not terribly interested in high school. Most of our high schools in Ontario, I find, are not doing perhaps a very good job for most of their students. A lot of students are kind of not paying a whole lot of attention in high school. And Matt was no different. He started working at 15 at Kentucky Fried Chicken near Toronto on the 401. So I mean, they had certain, little places to sit and whatever else, and he was doing fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But when he came to me for coaching, I said, and this is an aerial shot of the Home Depot parking lot. I said, Matt, here's your I guess that's probably the burger truck here, and then here's the little seating place. Do you think Home Depot would give you a few more parking spaces that you could kind of colonize? And he said, well, why would I do that? I've got the whole parking lot available to me anyway. I said, well, maybe what you could do is you could add some animation to it. He said, what kind of an animation? I said, well, maybe we could kind of gate off a few parking spaces and then turn it into a bit of a playland. What the hell is a playland? Well, here's what we did. Matt got a loader, and he started to bring in large river rock and large stones, and you can see some planters. And then he started to put games there so that you could bring your kids to Home Depot, do whatever you needed to do, and then go and play giant Jenga or a bunch of other games. And he put some fun things here, like like an Adirondack chair or Muskoka chair, which is so big you look like a little kid again. And I think this guy might be drinking a beer as well. So he started to do some fun stuff with Burger Builder. One of my good friends at about the same time, he has now passed away. He's one of the world's great architects. His name is Eric Kuhn. Eric did, like the Titanic Quarter in Belfast. I mean, he has done the biggest, most extraordinary projects in Sydney, Australia, in Dubai, and many other parts. And I went to visit him in London, in England, where he was headquartered. He was an expatriate American living in London. And I went to visit with him. And Eric was the kind of person that was a little bit like Marshall McLuhan. For the young people on this call, Marshall McLuhan was an amazing thinker. He is the guy who said, the medium is the message. He talked about, I think, the global village and some other things. And I heard a lecture from Marshall McLuhan in the 70s in Montreal. And he lectured for, probably 2 hours without taking a breath. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't understand a thing he said. But 20 years later, I understood he was describing the internet before the internet became a thing to most of us. Eric Kuhn is like that. And so Eric told me, Bruce, do you know that leisure is the new infrastructure? And I know when I listen to somebody like Eric Kuhn or Marshall, whatever, you have to listen very carefully. And when Eric said, leisure is the new infrastructure, Bruce, I said, what the hell does that mean, Eric? And he said, it used to be when, Bruce, you were a kid and I was a kid, that when a city or town wanted to develop itself, you would invest in new roads and new services, sewers, water mains, whatever. Today, for every project that Eric does, he's now passed away, so this is in the past tense, for every project, he always includes a leisure element. Could be pickleball courts, could be a volleyball court, could be anything, whether he's developing a retail plaza or he's developing an office building, an industrial building, certainly a recreational park like Aaron and Brad have done. So he believes that the investment in leisure has a greater gearing, greater ROI than almost anything else you can do. I don't know why I put this in here, but when my kids were little, I actually invented a game called Burger Wars. And one of the things I did, because I'm getting a bit older, as you know, is I gave the intellectual property for this game to Matt Dodbury and his people. I said, you're in the burger builder business, you might as well own Burger Wars. It's a little kid's game. This is one of my grandsons playing the game. So what would a playland next to a burger builder food truck look like, or for that matter, Aaron's food truck? It might include adult games. When I say adult games, I really mean games that can be played by multiple generations. Basketball, maybe not so much, football, not so much, but things like horseshoes, play areas like this, pickleball, volleyball, outdoor ping pong. Grandfathers can play with grandsons and granddaughters, and all ages can play. So I really believe in these. Leisure is the new infrastructure, and I would include it in almost everything I do. Believe it or not, even in some of my very small apartments, I put mini ping pong tables that are really tiny, but they actually work inside of them, and people just love them. They fold up into something the size of a briefcase. They unfold, and you can play ping pong inside your tiny apartment. People really love this kind of stuff. You can play cornhole, you can play bocce. There's all kinds of things that you can do. Once a year, before the pandemic, and we're going to start again, I take my kids and my grandkids to the Buffalo Bills. And talking about leisure as the new infrastructure, there are more people outside the stadium in Buffalo than inside the stadium. There are more people partying and tailgating before the game than there are actually in the game. And the tailgating starts at 5 or 6 in the morning. When I went there, I got there with my kids and my grandkids. I'm the designated driver. I was there at 7 a.m. and I was late. I had to park 2 miles from the stadium. People have been there probably since at least 5 or so in the morning. And as I'm walking around that day, this older lady comes up to me and she says, "Hey, Sonny, you can't drink all day." And I said, "Oh, okay, I don't drink actually." And she says, "No, you can't drink all day unless you start in the morning." And then she pulls out like I don't know, some kind of gin tonic, whatever. I don't know what it was, and starts drinking. So in case you don't think you're not quite believing what I said, Aaron, about all of this stuff about Playland and everything else, look at what happened to the sales for Matt as he introduced the Playland concept next to Burger Builder. His gross profit went from $57,000 in 2016 to over 150 grand a year later. That is really significant. So if Eric were alive today, he would understand that slide pretty well, and he would say, "Yeah, you got the message, Bruce." And I want you to think about that. So if you're building a multi-res, you have a duplex or a triplex, you're building an industrial building, doesn't matter. I've got one group of contractor yards where these are big contractor yards, heavy duty industrial users. They have lots and lots of space to park their equipment, and they have coveralls and Quonset huts and all this cool stuff. And guess what they're building this year? They're building a playland for adults, right? And multi-generational, as I talked about. Because if tenants play together, they stay longer, and they pay more. And it's virtually at every class of assets. All right, so that was I got through that pretty quick, Aaron?
Yes, you did.
All right, so I think next I'm going to make Amelia, I'm going to make you the co-host so that we can hear and learn from Amelia about what the bank, what BDC, and probably other lenders are looking for from us before they will approve a loan.
Okay. Can I share my screen now? Oh, share screen.
Yes, you can. Yep.
Okay. Okay, let me know when it starts working.
Not quite yet.
Oh, one sec.
Oh, okay, something's happening. Beautiful.
Okay, good.
Yeah, perfect.
Alrighty, so good to start.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm here to tell you about the BDC and what makes us the bank for entrepreneurs specifically. So second, I'll walk through the offerings that we do, talk about kind of what we do, what we don't do, and then we also have some client success stories as well in here. Oh. There we go. So let's begin about the BDC, why we are so passionate about supporting entrepreneurs. At BDC, the purpose is to empower a nation of dreamers and doers. So that was the new mission statement for our 2023 year. We work with small and medium-sized businesses, companies with less than 500 employees. So they're called SMEs, if you see that throughout the presentation. We have 95,000 clients, businesses as clients across Canada in all industries and all stages of growth. We have an extensive network of trusted advisors across the country who talk to business owners every day. which can provide great insight, feedback, challenges, and opportunities that you face. So ultimately helping us create the right solutions for your business that will help you long term is our goal. Because at BDC we're a development bank, we're focused on long-term success. So we're in it for the journey. So what makes BDC different is we are a patient, flexible lender. And here are some of our different offerings that kind of differentiate us. So we can offer longer repayment periods on certain products. We can do up to 25 years on a commercial mortgage. Our repayment schedules can match your cash flow cycle. So some seasonal businesses that close in the winter time. So obviously, like your cash flows are much better come, let's say, summertime. We can go on an interest-free periods from October until February, for instance, and then your lump sum principal then is paid to match your cash flow come your busy season. We have a higher risk tolerance and our terms and conditions that don't change without due cause. We're committed to sustainability and we help Canada and its entrepreneurs create a prosperous, inclusive green economy. And so 9 out of 10 of our advisory clients say that we have had a positive impact on their business. They're pleased with our ability to provide them with critical insight and advice, which helps them develop a greater capacity for growth, profitability, innovation, and sharpens their competitive edge. So we also step in when the going gets tough, acting as a shock absorber for entrepreneurs. So we did that during the financial crisis in 2008 to 2009. Then we did it when the oil prices collapsed in 2016. And then obviously everyone knows the COVID-19 pandemic, where we had to disperse and get all the COVID loans out during that time as well.
Can I add one quick thing, Amelia?
Yep.
So as I mentioned, we did take out a $250,000 loan from BDC. All the paperwork was signed. We were in final submittals, and then that storm hit last year where we lost 5,000 trees.
Oh, right.
To BDC's credit, they stuck with us. The two things they did for us was A, they gave us the loan even though our revenue model had completely changed. They gave us 6 months of no payments and then 6 months of interest only payments.
Oh, wow.
And that's probably one of the reasons that we are still open, because you did that in conjunction with the Prescott Russell Bank. They did the same thing for us.
Oh, good.
And it was like, it's life-changing stuff. This part that you're talking about here has a very serious impact on myself and our business. So
that's really good to hear. No, I'm happy to hear that. It's always good to hear like real life stories like that, that you actually lived it. Was that the storm last year that the tornado that came through?
correct.
Oh, okay, holy. Yeah, I had a couple clients that were like very severely affected by that. But no, that's cool. So our support for entrepreneurs takes 3 distinct forms. So obviously we have our financing in the form of term loans, capital investment, which includes specialized capital such as venture, as well as growth and transition capital. And third, our advisory services to entrepreneurs, an offer that makes BDC unique to the market. So right now we are actually working with the government, the ISED, on dispersing the CDAP money and advisory program that they've come up with. If anyone has any questions about that, we can talk about that after. So in terms of financing, BDC offers entrepreneurs access to working capital. So you can do things like buy machinery, renovate your facilities, finance key growth projects, or even cover cash flow caused by disruptions. Through our wholesale financing team, we work in partnership with financial institutions and other private sector lenders to provide you with the financing you need when you need it. The financing is available through syndicated loans and indirect financing. For smaller emerging finance and leasing companies with fewer assets, we also offer secured lending under the same platform. So we partner with other financial institutions to participate in large operating lines of credit and revolving or reducing term facilities for cash flow, asset-based lending, public-private partnerships, renewable energy financing, and real estate financing. That's for larger business with substantial financing needs as well. So we can help with, accessing working capital, buying a business, investing in real estate, purchase equipment, starting a business, investing in technology, transfer a business, or export to new markets. And then Bruce did want me to touch on, so investing in real estate, what we invest in commercial real estate. But what we can do is, of course, it has to be a commercial mortgage, but there can still be a residential portion if there's commercial on the bottom, and the commercial space is like the debt servicing can debt service from the commercial tenants in the building. And then we can look at if there are tenants in the building as well that are residential. But of course, we wouldn't look at the residential portion as a way to debt service. It would be 100% the owner occupied space, or the we call them supplier on premise, SOPs, which are tenants that are renting the space from you and your building.
So one of the things that I think I understand about the BDC's business model is that they will do, in fact, help you out with a mixed use building, provided you have, as Amelia said, commercial on the ground floor. And I think the reason, or at least one of the reasons that Amelia and others at BDC have explained to me that they don't do pure residential is, if they have to foreclose or power sale, they don't really like the idea of putting people out on the street, people who are resident in the building. So if you have a mixed use building with commercial at grade, I think the BDC can look at it. And also, if you are providing some of your units, or maybe all of your units, like Dale is, that are on Airbnb or vacation rental by owner or some combination thereof, that's considered commercial, I think.
Yeah, Airbnbs are tricky. We just try to not, we just don't, we can't do a lot with it, but it's not like we can't finance a building with an Airbnb in it. It is a bit of a gray area because we do finance bed and breakfasts. So it's just something that we have to work on the program with to make it work for you. Okay, so here is a client story, Port Rexton Brewing. So recognizing an opportunity, so they recognized an opportunity to tap into the Newfoundland market where there was less competition. Sonia Mills and Alicia McDonald converted an old schoolhouse into Port Rexton Brewery, located in Port Rexton, Newfoundland and Labrador. 3 years later, they needed to expand their operations to reach their full growth potential, and saw that their building would no longer meet their production capacity needs. They reinvested in a new, larger brew house and expensive new equipment, such as a large fermenters to increase capacity and a faster, more automated canning line. They wanted to maintain full control of the company without bringing in shareholders. So BDC was able to provide the equipment purchase financing for the canning line that they wanted, and it avoided them diluting their ownership. Clients can get up to 125% financing for up to 12 years and postpone their principal payments for up to 24 months.
I'm just going to stop you there for a moment. Did everybody hear what Amelia just said? 125% loan to value. Try and get that from your mortgage lender, whether it's one of the chartered banks or a B lender. I don't think you're going to get 125%. One of the things I love about BDC is that they don't want you to run out of money before you finish. I mean, what is a half-finished, Buildup worth, Aaron? What's it worth if it's not finished?
Not very much.
Not very much. It's got to be able to produce, some beer or whatever. And so, the BDC, really emphasizes, and it's very much an American thing as well. I deal with a lot of coaching clients in the States, and they go to their banks and their lenders, and they have many of them have a very similar attitude. They want to make sure the entrepreneur has enough money to complete the project and then a little bit more.
Yeah, like we obviously want you to be up and running in your full capacity to be able to pay off your BDC loan. So yeah, that's why we find that's just like a great way of looking at it. Like we want to do the full project if that's what the full intent is, because we need you up and running to be able to, if we're going to lend the money, we need to be paid back. So that's why it's one of the good reasons why we like to kind of get fully involved and make sure that you can be as successful as possible.
Amelia, just real quick.
Yep.
I know you might touch on it soon, but isn't there a program where you offer up to $100,000 to businesses? I think it's very low application. I know I've used it in the past. I don't know if it still exists.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, 1 second. I'm just getting a Teams call. That's the CDAP program, so the Canadian Digital Adoption Program. So that program is a grant from the federal government that's through ISED. So how it works is, first you have to be a Canadian business, open for 2 years, and making over $500,000 in sales. And you can apply for the Canadian Digital Adoption Program. If you meet those specific qualifications, like typically you will qualify. And the mandate is to help kind of better digitize your business, whether that be like inventory management, marketing, CRM stuff, just anything digital. So you're given a grant that's up to $15,000, but that is to pay specifically for the advisor to come in and work with you for 30 hours to develop a digital roadmap with you. So then 90% of that 15,000 is covered by the government. As soon as you get that money reimbursed to you, you then get a link from BDC that you can click on, and then you can apply for an interest-free loan up to $100,000, which is just unheard of nowadays. Businesses making under $4 million in sales can qualify up to $50,000. And I've had a couple clients like complete the full program, and they have nothing but like amazing things to say about it. I have a restaurant client who she just at the end of the day wanted the interest-free money, but she obviously knew she had to do the advisory part, just kind of checking off the boxes. But then after she was done the full program, she was just completely blown away at like what things she was missing in her business, and they ended up actually using most of the interest-free money to better upgrade the digital technologies with their so that it was more streamlined, from like online reservations, online orders on their website, to the kitchen, to the cooks, to the front house. So yeah, that was a very successful mandate for that.
Amelia,
so that's how you get the interest-free money.
Amelia, we also have a question from Janice about what BDC will and will not do. What does BDC or will BDC look at agribusiness? Is that something that gets support from BDC?
Yeah, we have some agribusiness clients. We also like our sister kind of financing team is Farm Credit Canada. So we do work closely with them. Sometimes ag businesses can get better flexible terms through Farm Credit Canada than us, just because they're geared to work with agricultural businesses. But that doesn't mean that we don't work with agribusiness. And we can also partner with FCC as well. But no, we 100% can look at agribusiness as for financing whatever your needs would be.
I knew the answer because BDC is actually helping one of my clients who's in the mushroom farming business.
Oh, really?
Indoor mushroom farming. So Janice, he has a really fabulous mushroom production facility. And the business is just doing this, but he wants to expand. And as we speak today, BDC is on site with the appraiser looking at his operation.
Oh, nice. That's exciting. Yeah, no, I mean, my family actually has an agribusiness themselves in Prince Edward County. So I'm very much aware of the agribusiness industry. Well, business. Alrighty, so. All right, so I can talk a little bit about our capital. So our investment arm from BDC Capital plays a prominent role in fostering a healthy, vibrant Canadian innovation ecosystem through its 4 divisions. So we have growth and transition capital, venture capital, growth equity, and intellectual property-backed financing. So these are 4 separate teams, like divisions of the BDC. I don't work overly closely with them. Like if we do get any questions or clients that are better suited for this capital side of the BDC, I definitely refer out, work with an account manager within one of these divisions to better assist the business.
Amelia, before you get off, can you go back to that slide just for a moment? Yep. I'm actually going to boot you off just for a second, and I'm going to share one more slide with you because I didn't get to it. And just as a question, this is the slide I didn't get to, and I wanted to show everybody just to give you an idea of what the scale might look like in something like the Burger Builder. So you got to remember, Burger Builder has a successful, profitable business in a Home Depot parking lot. How much, Aaron, are you still there?
Yep.
Aaron, how much do you think Matt Dobry pays for the land that he occupies in the Home Depot parking lot?
I wouldn't think very much, actually.
He pays $625 a month. So he doesn't have to go out and buy a piece of land, which in Canada for an acre of land in Canada these days, it could cost $1 million. All he has to do is get a land lease with Home Depot, pay them $625 a month, and he's good to go. So the question I'm asking you, Amelia, is for somebody like Matt, he's got one location, makes $400,000 in gross sales a year, actually a little bit more than that, $150,000 in gross profit. If he had 10 Home Depot locations, just multiplied by 10, $4 million and $1.5 million in gross profit. But there are 2,500 Home Depot stores. What if he had 1,000 locations, was doing $400 million in sales and $150 million in gross profit? Is that the kind of business, I'm just asking, that BDC could get behind with its venture capital arm?
Yes, I think so for sure. Or our growth and transition capital. That's a good team to work with. They can do quite leveraged loans and that sort of thing that we could or yeah, even our venture cap. I haven't done like I'm not fully versed in our venture capital department, but it definitely is something like, yeah, we would definitely look at. We're one of the biggest VCs in Canada right now. So yes.
So I want everybody to focus on that. Matt can get free land. Why would Home Depot? I'll ask you again, Aaron. Where is Aaron again? I can't see him.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm getting too old to know. Aaron, so why would Home Depot only care about getting $625 a month in land rent for this thing? Why would they? I mean, it's hardly, it would be not even a rounding error. It wouldn't even be a decimal point in their financial statements. Why would they do this in the first place?
Well, my two guesses would be that I know the Canada parking lot, it's underutilized land. No one uses it anyway.
Right.
And it brings a new customer to the Home Depot. They
That's
care
right.
about the orange doors.
That's right. So what Aaron said is exactly right. I mean, whether you're running an arena or you're running a Home Depot, food services are really important. You know, people like Aaron like to eat. And so Home Depot, I said to Matt, Home Depot, if you've got one good relationship, which he does, and there's 2,500 stores, blow it up. Now, to Matt, who's a chef, you know, and didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to go ahead with further education, although he is a Red Seal chef, he could go to somebody like BDC, get some real backing, and then blow this thing up into, you know, possibly a $400 million a year business. And I want everybody to understand that's with not a whole lot of capital. He needs more capital than, you know, just buying another food truck. But he doesn't need the kind of capital that if you had, say, 1,000 locations and each site cost you $1 million, well, you can figure it out. You need $1 billion in capital. He doesn't need that because he's on a land lease. It's free land in a way. Does that make sense, Amelia?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
All right. Well, I'll make sure that he calls you next.
Do you want me to go back to sharing
Yeah.
my
Sorry,
screen?
I cut you off, but I thought it was right.
No worries. Okay. Is it working?
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here is another client story. OSF Digital has been a BDC client for 14 years. Gerard is the CEO of this leading digital transformation company, which helps businesses leverage commerce, marketing, sales, service, analytics, loyalty, and digital experience solutions. He was looking for financing to hire and invest in a new training initiative. And he also wanted to pursue R&D to develop internal tools to increase production efficiency and support working capital needs. So the company's multinational organizational structure required a more complex security package. So BDC's Growth and Transition Capital team partnered with Export Development Canada, an international risk expert, to provide some mezzanine financing with flexible repayment terms. So this enabled the company to carry out its aggressive organic acquisition growth plan. And this type of financing splits the risk between two institutional partners and allows the company to grow over a longer period of time. So OSF's digital's revenues grew from 5 million to 200 million in 14 years. They maintained the vital cash flow to invest in growth and hired new talent and developed new skills over those 14 years as well. So that's pretty cool. So that's like kind of what our growth and transition capital team does, is that they work with these businesses that like if they don't have the realty or whatever as backing, but they're like have high growth intentions, they can kind of get in there and do some different things that like typically like our typical financing can't always do. And then obviously do the mezzanine, the partnership financing. We do that sometimes with Royal Bank, and then we also can do some mezzanine financing with Farm Credit Canada as well on partnership deals.
Amelia, can you explain what mezzanine financing is, please?
It's basically when we partner with other lending institutions to share share that risk, the risk of the full project is kind of like a high level overview of it. At the end of it, yeah. So I actually haven't done like mezzanine financing is more commercial. So it's larger deals that have like a higher risk tolerance, that other banks can partner with we can offset. Let's say RBC needs to offset their risk. We want to offset our risk, so we can go in together to get the project done.
So to me, that makes a lot of sense. So what I understand mezzanine financing to mean is as follows. When you have a business that's a startup, that's probably the riskiest phase for most businesses, is when they're starting out. When you're a little bit more mature, what these banks like BDC and others can do, Farm Credit Corp and others, is they can come in and really give you another layer of financing to allow you to expand and to have proper amount of working capital. Mezzanine financing is just exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of a higher level. Mezzanine is on top. Does that make sense, Amelia?
Yeah, no, it's more of like a hybrid version, just for your hybrid version of your debt equity structure, I guess, in a way of, you could say it like that as well. Okay. Oh, I already switched slides.
Yep.
So this is our advisory arm of the BDC. So our advisory services help entrepreneurs work smarter. Our goal is to help you adopt and incorporate best practices to meet your business challenges and to remain competitive. So first, we want to accelerate your growth. We work on increasing your sales by focusing on sales and marketing, both traditional and digital, as well as innovation. Secondly, we want your business to be more agile and more efficient. We can help you improve your operations by streamlining processes, implementing lean manufacturing, and selecting the right equipment and technology for your business. We also help you build organizational capabilities to manage your business effectively. And we offer advisory services in areas such as strategic planning, financial management, organizational design, and HR management. So we work on finding new markets to keep your business growing, including international expansion. And finally, we can help you address more specific needs like optimizing your online sales. So that we kind of touched on that with the CDAP program. And that is, I think that program, the government said they will be backing that for, I think, 3 years. They've invested a couple $1 billion into this grant. So they're really pushing businesses to sign up and take advantage of that program.
Just before you change slides, Amelia, I want to just talk about point number 1 and point number 6 on the slide. Most people think when they talk about accelerating growth, they think about that means increasing sales, and certainly it does. But one of the things I want everyone to think about in their business models is, what is the vector for growth, as opposed to just working harder to make more sales. By vector, I mean, where are you going to go to expand? And if you think about the burger builder model again, it's obvious. Anybody with a parking lot and the right zoning, like Home Depot, is a potential expansion. And that's very rapid expansion. I mean, you could do one visit with Home Depot, and if they like you, they could give you 100 sites or 500 sites to develop your business. That's a vector for growth that addresses scalability. In Aaron's case, where he's got Hammond Hill, which is the glamping and the tiny house village, for him, the vector for growth and the scalability is, where else will he go to find that kind of land? And one of the things I've said to Aaron and his business partner, Brad Karche, is that for scalability, for him, is not to go after existing, RV parks, because all of the big guns in the United States and the private equity firms in Canada and the United States are trying to buy up, these trailer parks. But one thing is overlooked are campgrounds. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of campgrounds in the States and in Canada that are practically orphans. The reason they're orphans is grandma and grandpa have owned the campground for 50 years, and their kids and their grandkids don't want anything to do with it. But if Aaron and Brad want to scale Hammond Hill, small living company, small living village, they can go into any number of these campgrounds, buy them. They've got existing facilities. Many of them have a store. Many of them have water supply. Many of them have some sort of sewer or septic solution, and then they can convert them to their model. That's a fast vector for growth. I want you to understand it's not just working harder to make more sales. Okay? Ms. Campbell.
Yep. Oh.
Perfect. Next.
My slides are glitchy. They don't always click, and then
Oh, no,
I have everyone on my screen behind me.
You're doing
So
good.
when you're all right, so third and last client story. So we have Joel Sotomayor. He's the CEO and founder of Transport Genie, which offers a unique microclimate sensors and a robust network to enable the humane transport of animals from the farm to their next destination. His products provide peace of mind to farmers, food companies, and consumers that livestock is treated humanely. Joel needed a structured strategic plan to bring his unique product to market and grow the business on a national and international level. BDC's advisory services team worked closely with Joel to develop a comprehensive strategic plan to guide his decisions and actions to successfully grow his company. With the help of BDC's experts, he developed a revenue growth plan, defined the company's sales approach, developed a phased market entry plan, created a product development plan, and established revenue growth options, and built his client base in a very short time period. He is now well positioned for rapid expansion. So yeah, that was utilizing one of our advisory services, which we can definitely, like, if anyone has any questions about that, I can schedule some time to go over those different products that we do have. And then number 12 slide, next slide. So our sustainability. So BDC is committed to raising the bar on sustainability, economic development that is socially inclusive and environmentally responsible, so that to ensure that no one is left behind. Sustainability does make good business sense, minimizing waste, improving energy efficiency, and building inclusive communities are all ways to do good while saving money, boosting profits, and attracting and retaining diverse talent. We have some different investment funds, like our clean tech investments, and some sustainability advice that we also do get into more detail with.
I'm going to ask a question here as well, if you don't mind, Amelia.
Yep.
It has always perplexed me that environmentalists and economists and developers and entrepreneurs all seem to be at loggerheads. Aaron, you're going to comment on this in a minute. Aaron believes in being green makes not only good environmental sense, but also makes good economic sense. Think about this. If you were running a manufacturing company and you were wasting 20% of the materials and 20% of the energy that you're using, how is that good for the environment? Well, it isn't. But how is it good for your bottom line if you're throwing out 20% of the materials because you're cutting improperly, or you're using too much energy because you just don't pay enough attention to it? So good green policy is not necessarily opposed to good economics. And in my view, Amelia and Aaron and the class, nothing is sustainable unless it's also economically sustainable. So these two things, these two goals, I think, are shared. They're two sides of the same coin. So one of the things I was going to ask you, Amelia, and then Aaron, I want you to comment on it, is that if you're doing a building and say you're putting in, $350,000 worth of heat pumps, Aaron loves heat pumps, and it's going to save energy and it's going to be more of a green solution, is that something people could come to the BDC and say, look, we're going to add $350,000 to our budget to buy these really great heat pumps, but here's what it does, and it does save money?
Yeah, no, yeah, we would definitely be able to look at that for sure.
All right, thank you, Aaron.
And how, just out of curiosity, how do you gauge what sustainability looks like for BDC? Like, is there a metric? Is there a grading scale? Like, how is this looked at?
I don't believe, like, from what I know, there's no grade, like there's no actual scale. There's like a pocket of money that was kind of came down for different sustainability mandates, I guess. And I think there's preferred rates. I'd have to look into the actual like solution itself to see like how it is graded, but I can do that and get back to you. Because yeah, I don't believe there is like a very strict grading system right now. I mean, it matters on like the scale of the loan itself, I'm assuming. But that is a good question that I can definitely look into and get back to you on.
Just to give you an
And
example, Amelia and Aaron, what happened, Zibi is a large project in Ottawa, a couple $1 billion worth of investment in homes and offices, in workshops and co-working spaces, et cetera, and retail shops, et cetera. It's right downtown Ottawa. It's a very big project and it's going quite well. They have invested tens of millions of dollars, for all I know, hundreds of millions, but certainly in the tens of millions of dollars in green investments to make sure their energy use, their waste, and everything else is minimized. And they were able, Amelia, to go out and get a loan tied to those investments. So if you can lower your energy costs by 20% by investing a certain amount of money, that you can actually borrow money and repay it through the savings. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what they did. And I don't think they did that with BDC, but I suspect that if we came to BDC, Aaron, with something like that, Amelia would find a way to make it happen.
Yeah, no, we can definitely look at that. And then like I said, I will delve into the sustainability like scale and see how that is specifically measured for lending and that sort of thing.
We have a question for you from
Yep.
Matt Woodworth. His nickname is Woody. Woody wants to know, he has a project, an industrial project going on near Smith Falls. He wants to know if he installs solar there, is that something he could come to BDC and look for financing on?
Yep. No, we've financed solar panels before.
So Woody, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, Amelia, what else is on the list?
Next slide. So this is like just basically talking about the BDC website. It has a ton of free content for entrepreneurs. 10.5 million visits last year.
Wow.
Well, almost, I guess, 11 million visits if you round up. So this reflects our continuous efforts to offer high quality, useful, inspiring content to help entrepreneurs address challenges that they face. Yeah, so we have lots of different blogs, videos, courses, tools, templates, business planning templates, just all lots of great ebooks. I refer to it for a lot of things to clients. There's also a great economic outlook email that Pierre Clairaut, the key economist for the BDC, sends out monthly with his kind of update on the economy that I find really kind of interesting and engaging, that he always sends out as well. So that's something to sign up for if you are interested in rates and that sort of thing.
Amelia, could you put in the chat box, because I haven't done it yet, but I will. Can you put in the chat box the link where we can go and get subscribed to that newsletter?
Yep. Oh, yeah, I can do that for sure.
Just
So
put it in the chat box. Everybody can pull it out of the chat box then, and I'll
okay,
put it into the replay as well.
I'll have to find it.
Because I have read a lot of the stuff. Amelia, is that your last slide?
No, there's one more here, but I'll put on when I have the question slide up at the end, I'll find his newsletter link and I'll put it in the chat.
Because I'm going to subscribe to that. I've read a lot of the BDC stuff, and it's actually really good. I mean, it's well thought out, and these people do really understand entrepreneurs. I think it is truly the only bank in Canada that understands entrepreneurs. Most of the charter banks really aren't interested. If you want to buy a truck or a car, they're interested in talking to you. But for the kind of stuff that we talked about today, maybe not so much.
Okay, I will find that in a minute.
Find that in a minute, because we're going to switch to Aaron in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no worries. So this is what we don't do. So guaranteed investment certificates, grants, except for we are working with that one grant right now, which is just never happens. So that's why it's so good. Term deposits, lines of credit, non-commercial loans or residential loans, and bank accounts and credit. It's just a list of things that we don't do, but we work closely with some good banks, and we can refer you to some good people that can help you set up these sort of things. And yeah, that's everything.
I do have one more question. Earlier, I think the loan I was looking for was the small business loan. I looked it up. I know I've taken advantage of it. I think it's up to $100,000. There's no application fee. I think I had the money in like, it was in under 2 weeks. It was an amazing program to do. Is that, I don't know if it's run necessarily through an advisor or if it's just run through the website itself. Did you know?
Yeah, so that's our yeah, they're called our OLF loans. They're under $100,000, and you can get it very, very easily and instantaneously. That you apply online. It's pretty virtual experience, and little due diligence has to be done. I believe all the qualifications are you have to have a good credit score. You have to be a Canadian business, in business for 2 years, and be making over $100,000 in sales. And you can easily apply for that on the BDC website. And money's in your bank account like within a couple days or weeks, just depending on like processing times. I think right now it's a little slow because I think we're it's a little busy, but yeah, it's usually a pretty painless process for people to apply for if you meet the qualifications for that.
Amelia, I think, and Aaron, I think I'm showing it on the screen now.
Yes, that's it.
So everybody, Amelia, can you see that?
Yeah. We can, I don't do those, but yeah, like I said, you just go to the website and you apply for that. And then basically I do loans from 100,000 or larger, is what as an account manager we do.
So for example, Jordan, you're on the call with us today. You know, for starting your new property management company, if you needed some equipment or whatever else, this, what Aaron has just referred to, the small business loan program, is fantastic for up to $100,000. It is really extraordinary. You can apply online, and the approval is, you know, it's very quick, isn't it, Amelia?
Yeah, like depending on, I've had like if you are very like, if it's very straightforward business, like you meet the qualifications, like I said, it can be very easy and quick.
Yeah.
It also is very credit score dependent. So like if your credit score is not the best, it can just automatically just say no, sorry. But yeah, if you meet the qualifications and everything, it should be a pretty easy, quick thing to do if you need that $100,000. And then if you do it, I think you can attach, like if you know an account manager, or like put myself as an account manager for the BDC, and then we just can kind of track it better because it does go to the virtual banking side, which I think clients sometimes can be left when you apply. You're like, okay, am I going to get it? Am I not? So like I had somebody who was asking me, and then I was easily able to like find it like in our system and be like, okay, well, they're in this part of like the due diligence phase. Like you should be hearing like soon whether or not you're going to be able to like get the money or not. But yeah, no, it is a good program, and yeah, it is just it's very credit score dependent. So if you have a good credit score, it should be an easy thing to get.
Yeah, I think Abid is on the call as well. Abid, I hope you're paying attention here to this as well, because Abid is running a really successful kitchen and bathroom manufacturing and installation business, and he's got some other ideas. Abid, up to $100,000 in small business lending, you can apply. You have a good credit score, no problem. And Jordan, I think that would apply to you as well. So if you need some money to start a small business or to grow a small business, this is a terrific program. There is also Canada Small Business Loan Program. which will go up these days up to $1 million. And the Canada Small Business Loan Program is administered by the chartered banks. But here's the cool thing about it. 75% of that loan is guaranteed by the government of Canada and only 25% by you. And it goes up to $1 million. So there, you know, we've seen here, and I put it in the chat box, that is the link to go to the up to $100,000. But if you need 100,000 to $1 million, and you want to go through the Canada Small Business Loan Program, you can find that. Just Google Canada Small Business Loan Program. It'll pop up in a second. Okay, we had one more question from Dustin for you, Amelia. What do you think the minimum credit score is in order to be eligible for up to $100,000 loan?
See, I don't do those. Like, I don't do those ones. I think like it should be over. Like the most of the ones that I've seen that like when people don't get them is their credit score is in like the 600s. So if it's, I think like you should be okay over 700. Like if you're in the 700 range, you should be okay. Like I don't quote me from that or anything, but the ones that I've seen that haven't gone through, they're usually in the six range, even high sixes. Won't go through typically.
So most typically, Dustin, if your credit score, you can get it to 710 or higher. At 710 or higher, it's a good credit score. You'll get, you know, the best rates that you can, or very close to the best rates on mortgages, on loans, you know, prepaid cell phones, or postpaid cell phone plans. You know, so what you want to do is you try and keep your credit score to 710 or higher. Generally speaking, that's what you need to do. That's the focus for most entrepreneurs. The problem is that entrepreneurs have so many involvements often. Like, you know, somebody like Bill Gates, he once said, I don't remember exactly, but he once said his credit score was terrible. He's worth, I don't know, $100 billion, and he had a terrible credit score. The reason for that is that when everybody checks his friggin' score, and so every time they check it, it goes down a few points, and his credit score was not very good, but his credit worthiness is excellent, I assume, at 100 billion plus net worth. So what I would say to you is, for those of us who are not Bill Gates, if we could have a credit score of 710 or higher, I think you'll probably get pretty much anything you want.
Yeah, and I agree. Like it is, I do like it is hard for entrepreneurs, like especially like starting off like your business, like your credit gets hit like quite a lot, and like you're investing in your business and all that sort of thing. So it is sometimes unfortunate. Like credit isn't always the best, like for a period of time, and then banks are saying we need your credit score in like the mid sevens, high sevens. But yeah, no, as long as like it's in that range, we can work with you. And then if you don't qualify for the under $100,000, like an account manager like myself can sometimes look at the project a little differently, and work through it with you, as and not being as heavily credit based, if it's over 100,000 but under 350. It's just like a bit of a longer due diligence process with myself, opposed to the online just application that you can just put together and submit.
And this is the last point I'm going to make, and then we're going to get to hear from Aaron. Think about what Amelia just said. The BDC represents banking, in my opinion, the way it should be done. It should be based on not just a machine reading of your credit score. It should be based on, in part, on your credit worthiness, of course, but also on the quality of the person, the quality of the business plan, the quality of execution. There's so many more things that Amelia will look at than a scoring machine, which is really just an algorithm. All right. So that's why I invited Amelia here. I'm fond of Amelia. She's a good banker, but it's really person-to-person people banking, and that's what BDC does. And there are very, very few banks in Canada that compete with BDC and do that. And I'm really appreciative that you had the time today, Amelia. And I think you're actually on holidays today. Am I right?
No, I was off Tuesday, Wednesday this week. Back today. Yeah, this is my first day back.
Okay, all right. Well, we caught you at the right time. All right, Aaron, let's talk.
Bruce, I just want one more comment.
Oh,
I have this BDC loan, the easiest loan I have ever applied for, bar none. Had the money within 2 weeks, and they gave me 6 months grace period. You should apply for this. Bruce, can I
Bruce.
pivot and do something a little bit different? I won't have quite enough time to get through this. Can I talk
Sure.
about something different?
Okay,
Aaron,
well,
do you mind if I ask one last question? Sorry,
you
this is
go ahead, right ahead, Kyle.
okay. Sorry, Amelia. I don't want to take my. I know we're running out of time here. My one last question is, there's a lot of the chicken before the egg. If you're trying to do something involving like ships, for example. So, if you're trying to, start a company that, if you're gonna have to purchase some sort of vessel, which obviously they're very expensive, has your company ever put money towards a very large scale, but without any company down? I know you mentioned having 2 years of already having experience with a company, or the company already has a name. Is there any case where a business plan has been so strong going forward before any money is even put down that, BDC has put money forward?
Yeah, like as a startup, you mean?
Yeah. Full
Yeah.
on startup, but like to like a significant amount of money.
Yes, like we definitely look at that, and that's when we can look at partnerships. And then like, do you have like investment yourself as well a little bit as like
I'm
to get?
invested. I have like 2 rentals, but like to this company would eventually try and take over sort of like training in areas of the military that we think that they're definitely overlooking, and they don't have a plan for the future. But
Right.
to create that, like to create a business that's already getting started, we'd have to do all these outrageous other jobs with the ships, and that's it's just something that platform normally is targeted for a specific purpose, so it's harder to try and already think about those outside plans. So I was just curious if
Yeah, no, we definitely can. Like, I mean, obviously it's like everything's a little different. So if like you have a strong business plan, strong like backing, like, and we feel that like we're with you on the journey sort of thing, based on your plan, based on your investment, based on just like a lot of different things, it's something we can certainly look at and kind of in more detail and let you know. But we do work with startups from the start. It's it was the 2 years that being in business for 2 years is for applying for that loan under $100,000.
okay.
Is when if you're looking for like startup money and that sort of thing, is when you would come to an account manager like myself who works for the BDC, and then that's when we can work with you as a startup or as someone who doesn't have like the best credit, and like we have the opportunity to tell your story a little bit better to credit versus just like an automated system, which is why there's kind of best of both worlds in a way here. So
Thanks so much, Amelia.
yeah, no
That's
worries.
that clarified things for me too, Kyle. Thank you. Listen, guys, before I forget, we have a week off next week. You guys don't have to put up with me or Aaron next week. We are taking a bit of a break. You guys get emails from me, so you'll probably get at least 1 or 2 things to read or do and catch up. And then we resume again 2 weeks from today. So Aaron, we only have now 2 minutes left. We're going to there's 2 things that we didn't get to cover today. One is reading building plans. We'll kick that down the road 2 weeks. And the other is I wanted to talk about building your real estate team and how you go through the deal flow process. I'm going to go through that, point by point by point, how to actually go through the deal flow process in real estate. And we'll talk about assembling the right real estate team, something that almost nobody teaches or spends enough time on, but I'll certainly spend time on that 2 weeks from today. And Aaron will definitely get to your building plans. All right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right.
So Aaron, over to you. You got the last 2 minutes.
I want to talk about PPP, which is public-private partnerships. I have a couple slides that I'll get into in a couple weeks. But this week, if you give me 2 minutes, I took a call from the city manager of Rockland. He asked me to meet him in an hour and a half. He gave me an address. I showed up. Where I met him is a 100-acre park that the city owns, and they basically want to partner with myself and small living company and develop their 100 acres. They're offering the land for free. All I have to do is provide accommodations and run the accommodations, and I can take all the revenue from it. Leveraging your brand, building the right brand and the right messaging in terms of what you offer as a business allows me to take phone calls like this. Last night I would present it to city council on a different project that involves the city. I love this kind of business model. It's the first time anyone's ever offered me 100 acres for nothing. So it was very exciting, and to sit with the city manager and the assistant city manager and kind of walk the park, and they've even offered to clear the sites for me. Wherever I want sites done, they'll do the clearing for me. So in a couple of weeks, I would like to talk about my thoughts on public-private partnership, because I think it's a really, really phenomenal business model. It's underutilized, and it's an amazing opportunity in tertiary and secondary markets. It's out there for the taking. It really is, guys.
So think about what we've talked about today, these vectors for scalability, and what Aaron is talking about is a different vector, free land, public-private partnerships, 3Ps, right? PPP. What I talked about was land leasing, where you don't have to buy the site. So there are more models out there for you to think about. And every time you do something, I want you to be thinking about, is there something else I could do maybe to lower my need to borrow money, lower my cost of entry? I'll give you one last example, and I'm glad you brought that up. One of my clients, what he does is he goes around, he'll travel a city, and he'll look for, say, an old office building with a huge parking lot, or he'll find a shopping plaza with a huge parking lot. And what he'll do is he'll go and see the owner and say, look, I think we could build a multi-residential building right next to your shopping plaza, because you have, 50% of your parking isn't used, and parking ratios have changed over the last 25 years. And he'll do a long-term land lease, typically 65 years with a 30-year option to renew. And he will get free land and build an apartment building or build a condo building. And the land is free if you think about it, right? I mean, he does pay land rent, but he doesn't pay any land rent until the building is occupied. So who's really paying the land rent? The condo owners or the apartment renters? Do you understand what I'm getting at there, Aaron?
Mm-hmm.
So you can find lots of land inside cities, even very congested cities, very successful cities. You'll when you're driving by, you'll see these sites. They have these, like I said, these old buildings that take up, they're pimple size on a big piece of property, and you can go and talk to the owner, introduce yourself to the owner, and put something else up there on a land lease. It's free land, because again, the condo owners and their condo fees, or the apartment dwellers or the tenants, are paying their rent, and part of that goes to the landowner. It's kind of free land. So I want you to be thinking about your business model. And, like, for example, Janice has all kinds of ideas for co-housing. Janice, there are ways to get land, and we just heard from Aaron. He's going to get 100, was it 100 acres, Aaron?
Yep.
100 acres of free land. So there's all kinds of ways for us to approach these things as entrepreneurs that might not be obvious at first blush. All right, so we're not going to see you guys next week. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you very much for joining us today. See you all.